10 rarest and most legendary American vintage trucks of all time. Must see. Most trucks are built to work, to haul, to last. But a few were never meant to be common. Some were built in numbers so small most people never saw them in person. Others pushed ideas so far the industry didn't know what to do with them. And a few didn't just disappear, they became legends. These aren't just rare trucks. These are the machines people still talk about, even if they've never actually seen one. Starting with a truck that didn't just look different, it completely changed what a truck could be. Ranked 10th, GMC Futureliner, 1940. Almost no one who saw this truck forgot it, because it wasn't built to blend in. It was built to stop crowds. In the 1940s, General Motors created something that didn't behave like a normal truck. The GMC Futureliner wasn't designed to haul cargo. It was designed to carry an idea, a massive streamlined body, deep red paint, and a structure that could open from the side, transforming into a fully functional stage. This wasn't transportation, it was a moving exhibition. Part of the parade of progress, these machines traveled across America, bringing new technologies directly to the public. At a time when most people had never seen advanced engineering up close, this truck made it visible, but only a limited number were ever built, and over time most of them disappeared. Some were scrapped, some were forgotten, and only a handful survived long enough to be restored. Today, when one appears at auction, it doesn't just sell as a vehicle, it sells as a piece of American industrial history. Rare because so few remain. Legendary because of what it represented. And if this was how America showcased the future, the next truck didn't showcase anything. It challenged what a truck was even supposed to be. Ranked 9th, Dodge Deora, 1965. This truck has no doors, no side entry, no normal way in. And yet, it's still one of the most recognizable trucks ever built in America. The Dodge Deora wasn't designed to follow rules. It was built to ignore them completely. Based on a Dodge A100 platform, everything about it was reimagined. The body was lowered, the sides were smoothed out, and instead of opening from the side, the entire front lifted up. The windshield, the grille, the whole face of the truck became the entry point. It looked unreal, more like a concept from the future than something built in the 1960s. But this wasn't just a design experiment. It won major awards, appeared in shows, and quickly became one of the most talked about custom trucks of its time. And yet, only a single original Deora was ever built. No production line, no second wave. Just one machine that redefined what a truck could look like, and then stopped there. Today, it's rarely seen outside of controlled displays or collections, not because it was forgotten, but because it was never meant to be repeated. That's what makes it rare. But more importantly, that's what made it legendary. But breaking design rules wasn't the only direction American trucks explored, because the next one didn't try to look different, it tried to feel completely different. Ranked 8th, Chevrolet Titan III, 1969. This truck wasn't built to look aggressive. It was built to feel different. At a time when most American trucks focused on durability and raw power, Chevrolet introduced something unexpected, the Titan III. From the outside, it still carried the presence of a heavy-duty machine. But step inside and everything changed. The cabin wasn't just functional. It was designed for comfort, a spacious interior, refined materials, a layout that felt closer to a long-distance touring vehicle than a working truck. This wasn't about surviving harsh conditions. It was about redefining what long-haul driving could feel like. But the industry wasn't ready for that shift. Truck buyers weren't looking for luxury. They were looking for reliability, simplicity, and cost efficiency. And the Titan III offered something different, something ahead of its time, but out of sync with market demand. So it never became common. No widespread adoption, no lasting production impact, and over time, it faded into a rare piece of trucking history. Today, the Titan III isn't remembered because it dominated the road. It's remembered because it challenged expectations. A machine that asked a question the industry wouldn't answer, at least not yet. That's what makes it rare, and that's what makes it legendary. But while some trucks tried to make the experience softer, the next one went in the exact opposite direction. Ranked 7th, International XT 2004. This doesn't look like something built for a driveway. It looks like something built for a battlefield. The International XT wasn't designed to blend into everyday life. From the moment it appeared, it stood taller, wider, and heavier than almost anything around it. Based on military-grade platforms, this wasn't just a pickup. It was a scaled-down version of something far more extreme. Everything about it felt oversized. The stance, the ground clearance, the sheer physical presence. On normal roads, it didn't just move, it dominated space. But that level of power came with a problem. It didn't fit where most trucks needed to function. Too large for standard parking, too heavy for practical daily use, and far beyond what most owners would ever truly need. So production stayed limited. Only a small number were ever built, and even fewer were actually used the way they were intended. Today, seeing one in person is rare, not because it was forgotten, but because it never belonged to everyday roads in the first place. That's what makes it rare. But more importantly, that's what makes it legendary. Because it proves something simple. Just because a machine can be built doesn't mean it should be used. And yet, even this wasn't the strangest way engineers tried to rethink what a truck could be. Ranked 6th, Jeep FC170, 1957. At first glance, something feels off. The proportions don't look right. The cab sits too far forward, and the entire truck seems compressed in a way that doesn't follow normal design logic. But none of that was accidental. The Jeep FC170 was built around one idea: maximize usable space without increasing overall length. By moving the cab directly over the front axle, engineers created a layout that allowed more cargo capacity in a much shorter footprint. For tight job sites, narrow roads, and off-road conditions, that mattered. It wasn't designed to look balanced. It was designed to work where other trucks couldn't. But that same design came with trade-offs. Driver comfort was limited. Visibility felt unusual. And to many buyers, it simply looked unfamiliar. So production remained limited. And over time, fewer and fewer of these trucks remained in working condition. Today, seeing one on the road is rare. Not because it failed, but because it was built for a very specific kind of problem. That's what makes it rare. And more importantly, that's what makes it legendary. Because it proves something most trucks avoid. Sometimes the best design doesn't look right at all. And while this one was built purely for function, the next truck wasn't built for work at all. Ranked 5th, Autocar DC64. Most trucks move things. This one helped build what everything moves on. Long before modern highways, large-scale infrastructure, and standardized heavy transport, there were machines that operated in conditions where failure wasn't an inconvenience. It stopped everything. The Autocar DC64 wasn't designed for speed, it wasn't designed for comfort, and it wasn't built to be seen. It was built to work in environments that didn't forgive mistakes. Massive steel frames, extreme-duty axles, a structure designed to carry loads that would push standard trucks beyond their limits. This wasn't a highway machine. It lived in quarries, construction zones, industrial sites where terrain was unstable, loads were unpredictable, and reliability wasn't optional. And that's what made it different. Most trucks are built for roads that already exist. This one was part of the process that made those roads possible. But machines like this don't become common. They don't appear in cities. They don't stay preserved in everyday use. They wear out, used hard, pushed to their limits, replaced when the job is done, which means the ones that remain today are not just rare, they're survivors. And when you see one restored or still operational after decades, you're not looking at a truck. You're looking at a piece of infrastructure history that was never meant to last this long. That's what makes it rare. But more importantly, that's what makes it legendary, because while most machines follow the world as it is, this one existed before the world was fully built. And if this truck helped build the ground everything runs on, the next one didn't build anything at all. It redefined what a truck could look like and stopped there. Ranked 4th, Marmon-Herrington 4x4 trucks. Most trucks are built for roads. This one was built for what happens when the road disappears. The Marmon-Herrington 4x4 wasn't designed to look impressive. It was designed to go where standard trucks simply couldn't survive. At a time when most vehicles still relied on basic rear-wheel drive, Marmon-Herrington began converting trucks into full all-wheel drive machines. Not for comfort, not for speed, but for control. Mud, sand, unstable terrain, remote environments where getting stuck wasn't an inconvenience, it was a failure. These trucks weren't common. They were built for specific operations, military use, remote industry, extreme conditions. And because of that, production remained limited. They didn't appear in cities. They didn't become part of everyday life. Most people never saw one in action. But in the environments they were built for, they mattered. Over time, many were worn down, replaced, or simply lost to the conditions they were built to endure. And the few that remain today are rarely seen outside of collections or restorations. That's what makes them rare. But more importantly, that's what makes them legendary, because they represent a different kind of engineering, not built to stand out, but built to keep going when everything else stops. And yet, some of the rarest trucks weren't built for extreme conditions at all. They were built and then almost erased. Ranked third, Chevrolet CERV 2-truck variant, concept-level prototype. Almost no one talks about this truck, and that's not because it wasn't important. It's because it was never meant to be seen for long. In the 1960s, Chevrolet was experimenting with high-performance engineering under a program known as CERV. Most people associate it with experimental cars. But at one point, elements of that thinking began to cross into truck design. Not for production, not for the public, but as a way to test ideas that didn't fit anywhere else. What emerged wasn't a traditional truck. It was something closer to a rolling experiment. A platform where performance concepts, weight distribution, and unconventional layouts could be explored outside normal constraints. There were no dealerships, no brochures, no real attempt to commercialize it. And because of that, documentation is limited, footage is rare, and physical examples are almost non-existent. Over time, projects like this don't just fade. They get absorbed, pieces reused, ideas carried forward, origins forgotten, which makes this one different. Not because it failed, but because it was never designed to exist publicly in the first place. Today, it sits in a strange position, recognized by those who study automotive history, but almost invisible to everyone else. That's what makes it rare. But more importantly, that's what makes it legendary. Because sometimes the machines that shape the future are the ones you were never supposed to see. And while some trucks were hidden from the world, others became something far more personal. Ranked second, custom Peterbilt show trucks. These trucks weren't built in a factory, at least not the versions people remember. They started as standard Peterbilt machines, built for hauling, built for distance, but somewhere along the way, they stopped being just tools. They became personal. Owners didn't just maintain them, they transformed them. Extended frames, hand-polished chrome, custom interiors built with the same attention you'd expect from a luxury car. Or better, every detail had intent, not for performance charts, not for production standards, but for identity. No two were exactly the same, and that's what made them different from everything else on the road. These trucks didn't represent a company. They represented a person, years of work, pride, and a level of craftsmanship that couldn't be replicated at scale. They didn't appear in catalogs. They appeared at shows, convoys, events, moments where people didn't just look, they stopped and stayed. And over time, many of these builds disappeared, sold, modified again, or simply lost to use, which means the versions people remember, the ones that define this culture, are rarely seen today. That's what makes them rare, but more importantly, that's what makes them legendary, because they prove something no factory ever could. A machine becomes unforgettable when someone makes it their own. And at the very top, there's one type of truck that doesn't just represent individuals, it represents the identity of an entire industry. In first place, Mack Superliner show trucks. This isn't just a truck, it's what the entire industry recognizes, even without saying a word. The Mack Superliner was never built to follow trends. It was built to represent something permanent. Long hood, massive stance, a presence that didn't need explanation. From a distance, you already knew what it was. But what made it different wasn't just how it looked. It was what it came to represent. Power, without compromise. A machine built for heavy loads, long distances, and conditions where failure wasn't an option. Over time, it moved beyond function. The Superliner became a canvas, polished chrome, custom paint, perfectly balanced proportions that turned a working truck into something almost untouchable. It didn't just appear on highways, it appeared at shows, in collections, in places where trucks weren't just used, they were respected. And unlike most machines on this list, this one didn't disappear, it endured. But that doesn't make it common, because the versions people remember, the ones built to perfection, preserved, refined, are rarely seen outside of dedicated circles. What remains today is not just a truck, it's a standard. That's what makes it rare. But more importantly, that's what makes it legendary. Because when everything is stripped away, the designs, the experiments, the extremes, this is what's left. A machine that doesn't try to prove anything, it simply defines it. But here's the real question. Out of all the trucks on this list, which one would still work in today's world? Some of these trucks were never meant to be common, and some were never meant to last. But all of them changed how people see what a truck can be. Which one stands out to you the most? Let me know below. And if you want more rare machines like these, subscribe.